Perimeter secure, advancing!
Get those hands up now!
4:58 a.m., November 12, 2025, a quiet neighborhood in Lafayette, Louisiana suddenly shook as a convoy of unmarked SUVs slammed to a stop in front of 2147. FBI, ICE, and DEA agents stepped out simultaneously, shattering the calm of this suburban street. A breacher charge detonated, sending white smoke flooding through the front door. Shouts of "FBI, open the door!" jolted the nearby homes awake. This wasn't a routine drug raid. The speed, the force, the coordination all signaled something far more serious. FBI's HRT team led the entry down the dark hallway. They swept every corner with green lasers, moving in near silence. Everyone knew the truth. Their target was a link in a network that stretched far beyond Louisiana. The target was identified: Mahmoud Amin Yaqub al-Muhadi, 33, Palestinian. He was taken down right in the living room, offering no resistance. To neighbors, he was the quiet guy who worked night shifts, but federal files described him as a near command-level node. According to classified documents, Mahmoud was suspected of being a financial conduit for a Hamas-aligned armed faction. He entered the U.S. with clean papers, lived quietly, paid in cash, a flawless cover until his network was exposed through signal tracking tech. Months of surveillance revealed unusual patterns: strange crypto transactions, secret parking lot meetings, and contact with an unidentified signal transmission device that had appeared along the Gulf Coast. All signs pointed to a maritime smuggling route. 5:04 a.m. The entire area was locked down. A DEA drone scanned the rooftop while HRT prepared to clear the basement. The commander highlighted secondary objective: locate the signal device. If found, notify the Coast Guard immediately. From here, the operation expanded toward the sea. Inside, FBI secured the main floor, ICE collected immigration records, and DEA descended into the basement. Three agencies worked seamlessly, yet no one knew the most important discovery wouldn't be drugs, but a clue leading directly to the Gulf of Mexico. Neighbors peeked out through their curtains. To them, Mahmoud was quiet and polite. None imagined his small house had been on an FBI watch list tied to an unidentified fishing vessel that had just left a Louisiana port. As agents escorted Mahmoud outside, the street fell into tense silence. But the real turning point remained in the basement. DEA agents prepared to breach the room where Mahmoud kept his communications equipment, not knowing it would pull them all the way offshore. Opening the basement revealed not a meth stash, but a marine signal control station, an illegal AIS unit, a modified EPIRB locator, satellite-printed nautical charts, and a signal beacon that had transmitted just minutes earlier. The air tightened instantly. At the center of the desk sat a small device resembling a shipborne tracker. When activated, it emitted a faint but unmistakable signal: a vessel heading south, accelerating, only a few nautical miles off the coast. Someone had fled the port the moment the raid began. Inside a metal cabinet, they found maritime toolkits, life jackets, and a logbook marking 3 rendezvous points at sea. There was no doubt now, Mahmoud wasn't just a financial node. He coordinated the maritime route of the meth network. On his computer, an AIS map remained open, showing Vessel 184X. No ID. The ship had gone dark, changed direction, and slipped out of coastal radar. But the EPIRB he had activated had revealed its real location. DEA reported to command, "Target is moving offshore, likely carrying the shipment." FBI immediately sent an emergency alert to U.S. Coast Guard District 8, requesting deployment of rapid interdiction units. ICE seized Mahmoud's phone and recovered a final message: "Go now. If there's movement, keep heading south." Sent just 4 minutes before FBI breached the door, confirming an accomplice was escaping by sea at that very moment. The basement held only a few items: a device, a map, some maritime gear, but they created a massive concern. No meth was found. That only confirmed one thing: the whole shipment was already offshore. Technicians verified the modified EPIRB transmitted offshore, not inland. This type of device is used on deep-water smuggling vessels, not something a civilian could purchase. Everything pointed to a chase in the Gulf. DEA immediately sealed the property and forwarded all signal data to Coast Guard Air Station Mobile. The operation had outgrown the house and now spanned hundreds of square kilometers of open water. DEA's final conclusion inside Mahmoud's home. The shipment is already on the vessel. This location is a launch point, not a storage site. Every agent understood the battle had shifted to the water, and time was now the biggest enemy. As soon as the conclusion was made, FBI transferred all coordinates to Coast Guard District 8. From Mobile, an HC-144 Ocean Sentry Maritime Patrol aircraft launched toward the suspected area in the Gulf of Mexico. 5:26 a.m. HC-144 radar picked up a faint signal. A 25-30-meter vessel, AIS off, heading south at an unusual speed. The pilot reported target moving at 28 knots, definitely running. At sea level, the fast response cutter, USCGC Richard Snyder, accelerated. Red deck lights flared as the crew took their positions. This wasn't a routine check. This was a high-risk interdiction, the highest danger rating on open water. The HC-144 dropped flares to mark the target. The suspect vessel immediately veered southwest, trying to reach international waters. A Coast Guard officer shouted into the radio, "All units, this is a fleeing vessel. Prepare to pursue." As the Richard Snyder closed in, the smugglers began throwing cargo overboard. Infrared cameras captured green-colored packages splashing into the waves. No tests needed. Everyone knew it was packaged meth. Coast Guard loudspeakers boomed, "Vessel heading 214, stop immediately." But the vessel accelerated, engines roaring at maximum. On deck, the VBSS boarding team stood ready for the moment of approach. Richard Snyder fired 2 warning bursts from its M240 machine gun across the bow. The pressure forced the fleeing vessel to ease its rudder. Its engine sputtered black smoke, pushed past its limits for too long. As the vessel slowed, the VBSS team seized the moment, launching a grappling hook from the starboard side. Within seconds, 4 agents boarded the suspect vessel. A brief scuffle unfolded amid rough waves, but none of the smugglers could resist for long. 3 crewmen were subdued in 42 seconds. Below deck, agents found backup GPS units, a signal jammer, and an SSD containing 14 maritime delivery coordinates along the U.S. coastline. The lead officer stared at the screen. They weren't just escaping, they're running an entire distribution route. At the stern, 1 crate remained unthrown. Inside, over 40 kilograms of ice meth, chemically identical to samples tied to Mahmoud's operation. The network was clear. This was a maritime route, not a land-based one. The captain, handcuffed, still managed to say through a translator, "You caught 1 ship, but 2 others already left." The statement froze every Coast Guard commander. The chase wasn't over. It had just begun. As sunrise hit the Gulf, the captured vessel was towed ashore, and all seized data was transferred to FBI's New Orleans field office. What began as a small raid in Louisiana had now triggered a multi-state maritime manhunt targeting the largest meth route on the Gulf Coast. Once ashore, FBI seized the SSD and rushed it to the digital lab at Quantico. Early analysis showed the network operated at least 3 maritime routes, stretching from Louisiana to Texas and Florida, far larger than anyone expected. The nautical charts matched the coordinates from Mahmoud's basement. This confirmed he wasn't just a financier. He managed the maritime pipeline. Mahmoud became the key to mapping the entire organization. The Department of Justice held an emergency meeting. Officials concluded this was no longer just a drug case. It was a full-scale narco-logistics model, using disguised fishing vessels to bring meth into the U.S. A secret once confined to intelligence reports had now surfaced. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard expanded its search perimeter. 2 new cutters were dispatched, based on the captain's claim that 2 more vessels had escaped. Long-range radar and HC-144 patrols operated 24/7 across the entire Gulf of Mexico. Mahmoud, though no longer offshore, remained central to the network. In interrogation, he stayed silent, but his phone and USB data spoke for him, revealing he had received instructions to adjust the maritime route shortly before his arrest. Tracing crypto transactions, the FBI uncovered a chain of wallets tied to secret maritime hubs in Brownsville, Galveston, and Jacksonville. This exposed the true scale. At least 5 states were receiving shipments. Washington announced a new operation, Gulf Sweep, a joint FBI-DEA ICE-USCG mission to intercept the remaining maritime network. Objective: locate the 2 missing vessels. Publicly, DHS issued only a brief statement. This is a federal security matter. A dangerous maritime route has been disrupted. Further details remain classified. But observers knew this was only the tip of the iceberg. The Louisiana raid, once thought minor, had become the launch point of a vast oceanic pursuit spanning hundreds of nautical miles. With new data, the FBI now believed the Gulf Coast meth route was one of the most sophisticated ever uncovered. A Coast Guard officer looked out over the horizon and said, "2 more ships are still out there, and we'll find them." This marked the beginning of the next chapter, the pursuit across the far reaches of the Gulf of Mexico. With Operation Gulf Sweep activated, the Coast Guard expanded its search zone by over 200 nautical miles. 2 Sentinel-class cutters joined the mission, supported by HC-144 aircraft and MH-65 Dolphin helicopters. Goal: locate the 2 fleeing smuggling vessels. 6:42 a.m. HC-144 long-range radar detected 2 faint signatures, moving in parallel with AIS disabled. They hugged the edge of international waters, as if fully aware of U.S. pursuit limits. Pilot report: targets heading southeast. Speed increasing. A small storm developed, whipping the sea into rough swells. The vessels used the weather to mask themselves, but HC-144's infrared cameras caught every heat plume from their engines. Nothing escapes Coast Guard IR. USCGC Richard Snyder and USCGC Jacob Poru tightened the perimeter. When close enough, loudspeakers boomed, "Vessel ahead! This is the United States Coast Guard. Cut your engines immediately." Only the roar of waves and engines replied. One vessel suddenly turned toward shallow water, a desperate tactic. If grounded, they'd dump all cargo and flee on small skiffs. Coast Guard teams split. Snyder pursued the first ship. Poru intercepted the other. Waves crashed. Wind surged at 42 knots. Yet the HC-144 stayed overhead, its spotlight revealing 3 smugglers hauling crates toward the rail, preparing to dump evidence. USCGC Poru fired a burst of warning rounds across the bow. This time, the vessel slowed. VBSS teams closed in, hooked the rail, and boarded despite heavy seas. A 15-second struggle ensued, fast and brutal, ending with all 3 suspects detained. Elsewhere, the second vessel zigzagged to avoid collision. But the storm turned against them. A massive wave tipped the vessel sideways, leaving it drifting. Richard Snyder closed in. One suspect jumped overboard, but was captured within minutes. Across the 2 vessels, Coast Guard seized over 180 kilograms of meth, detailed nautical logs, and 2 SSDs containing delivery schedules for the next 3 months, including 27 U.S. destination points, from New Orleans to Atlanta and Miami. The final report to Washington stated, the network's entire maritime route has been dismantled. The Lafayette raid wasn't just a successful operation, it stopped $1 billion smuggling pipeline entering the U.S. by sea. One Coast Guard officer said through the roaring wind, "Today we caught 3 ships, but there's always more out there, and we'll always be here guarding this coastline." A reminder that the drug war never truly ends.